We thank God once more again. Last week we spoke about books being opened. I showed you from Revelation chapter 20 verse 12 where we saw that the dead, great and small, are going to stand before God. And the Bible says, and the books were opened. And we saw that on Judgment Day, there is not only one book which is going to be opened, but books. And then it goes on to say, and the book of life. So now, I just want to remind you that I promised you that I am going to embark on a series which I have entitled, The Books in the Bible. Books will be opened. Judgment Day and books. So whatever you think, just put it in your mind that there is something which is called the books in the Bible. And we want to explore these books. You see, people, one of the things which Satan wants to do is that he doesn't want Christians to read scriptures. He doesn't want you to understand. You will see someone with a PhD, a graduate, someone who went to school, a theologian. They can read all other things, but there's only one thing which they will never read. That is to understand the scriptures or the book, the Bible. So now, I will remind you once more about Revelation chapter 20, verse 12, and then we are going to take it from there. But now what I will do, I will show you another aspect of the books, but from the Old Testament. But these books, when you compile one message, they talk of one thing. Revelation to Genesis is about Christ and the end of the world. So let's go. Revelation chapter 20, verse 12. I'll read. The book of Revelation chapter 20, verse 12. I also saw all the dead people standing in front of the throne. Every one of them was there, no matter who they had once been. Several books were opened, and then the book of life was opened. The dead were judged by those things books said they had done. I will read again. Revelation chapter 20, verse 12. I saw the dead standing before the throne. Everyone was there, great and small. Several books were opened, and then the book of life was opened. Let me try to read this in the KJV version. I think it puts it in a very different way. KJV. I want you to mark certain words, because when you mark these words, it is from the understanding of these words that we will take our sermon, our message today, when you understand those words. Revelation 20 verse 12, KJV. It says, and I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened. I want you to underscore two words or two phrases. One, and the books were opened. One, underscore it, underline that phrase. And the books were opened. One. And the second one, and another book was opened. So do you see that we are dealing with several books and another book? So which means that already we are having more than 3 books in the Bible. So now it is within this context that we want to explore the books in the Bible. I told you the other day that there are people who always say, is your name written in the book of life? As if Judgment Day is going to be based on one book. On the day of judgment, it's not only one book which is going to be opened. Books will be opened. What are the books? This is the series we are going to be embarking on. Let us go to the book of Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7. We want to hear what Brother Daniel says from the Bible. Daniel chapter 7. I'll read two versions of scripture and then I will take it from there. I'll read from verse 1. Daniel chapter 7 verse 1. KJV. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote them down. Then he wrote the dream and he told the sum of the matters. So Daniel had a dream and he wrote down the dream which he had. What was the texture? What was the context? What was the material of the dream? Let's go. Verse 2. Daniel spoke and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. So in his dream, Daniel saw 4 beasts different from each other. What were the beasts? Let us continue reading. He says in verse 3, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second one, like to a bear, which had it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said unto it, rise, devour much flesh. Now, I will not waste your time by trying to narrate or to give a narrative of the 4 beasts. But I want you to understand that what was Daniel talking about? And when we understand this, we will then just go to Daniel chapter 7, verse 8, 9, and 10, where the main issue about a book which was opened, I will show you. But I want you to understand the background of why and how that book was opened. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I told you that from Revelation chapter 20, we are going to be talking about books. But here in Daniel chapter 7, where I have taken you, I have shown you Daniel having a dream. And in his dream, he saw 4 different beasts, one like a lion, one like a bear, one like a leopard. And then when you look at these these beasts, they represented rulers or powers or superpowers. So now, I want you to understand that the first beast represented the Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar. If you read, you will see that after this dream, there was a kingdom which was what? A physical kingdom which was ruled by a man called Nebuchadnezzar in a place called what? Babylon, present day Iraq. What am I trying to tell you? I'm trying to tell you that Daniel was shown the kingdoms of the world which were going to be superpowers. But you see, the Bible says, and this beast, it looked like a lion, but it had wings like a what? Like an eagle. And the wings were clipped. The Babylonian Empire fell down. And then the one like a bear. So now the 4 kingdoms I want you to know is what? 1, I told you the Babylonian Empire. 2, the Persian Empire. 3, the Greek Empire. And then, when you look at the 4th one, it was the Roman Empire, Italy. So now, why were these 4 kingdoms of paramount importance? Let us go to the book of Daniel chapter 7, verse 8, 9, and then I will explain from the books now, so you understand where I am going. One day, God willing, I'm going to try to deal with these kingdoms one by one. Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian Empire, Persia under this man Ahasuerus, and then the other one under the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great. I will deal with those. But today I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to show you about these 4 kingdoms which were shown to Daniel by God in a dream. Let us read Daniel chapter 7, verse 8, 9, and 10. We are talking about books. Let's go. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of men. Okay? Let us go to verse 10. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him. And 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. And the judgment was set, and the books were opened. Here is my case. In this world, there are dictators who have rose up and killed people in millions. People like Hitler. On Judgment Day, all his acts will be plain. They are recorded. There are dictatorships like in Zimbabwe today, where you have dictatorship from Zanu PF, and the people are disappearing and no one is accounting for them. Do you know what is happening with God? God is writing in a book. So on Judgment Day, people who never got saved will be judged going to hell for justice based on what they have done. Do you think people who kill people, innocent people, are just going to get away with it? You shot an innocent person in a match and you think it's just going to end like that. God is not going to record it. No ways. It doesn't work that way. So now what am I trying to tell you? I am trying to show you that in the Revelation chapter 20 verse 12, the Bible says, and books were opened. And then in Daniel chapter 7, we see 4 kingdoms who end up in books being opened in Daniel chapter 7 verse 10. So now all the things which Nebuchadnezzar did were recorded. Do you remember the days of Daniel? When they said anyone who is not going to what? Who is going to worship the golden image is going to be put to death. And people were put to death. So do you think those people were not recorded by God, that Nebuchadnezzar just killed people and the story ended like that? No one is to account for those people. Do you think the people or the Christians today who are being killed in northern Nigeria by Muslims, it is just going to end like that? God is just going to say, no, Muslims killed the Christians. End of story. Nothing happens. Things don't work like that. So in Daniel chapter 7, we saw 4 kingdoms who were superpowers. But in verse 10, their activities were written in books. What am I talking about? I am talking about everything you are doing today is recorded. What you were doing last night, whether you were committing adultery, whether you were taking drugs last night, whether you were sinning secretly and you thought no one is seeing it, there is a book where everything you are doing is being recorded. It doesn't matter whether you are saved or you are not saved. We saw in Revelation 20 verse 12, it says, books were opened. So here is my case. People who are not born again, they are going to be judged, going to hell, but justice will be meted for what they did on earth. You know, in Zimbabwe, we have had people disappear. there is something which is called Gukurahundi, where more than 20,000 people were killed and put in shallow graves. Do you think God doesn't know about those people? Mnangagwa, Zanu PF, the soldiers, Gukurahundi 60th Brigade. Do you think the people you killed in Matebelelet, they are now bones? Do you think you are just going to get away with it like that? You killed your own husband. You put poison. And you say, I don't know. And you think you are going to get away with it. No ways. What am I saying? Daniel chapter 7, verse 8, 9 and 10. There are books which everything, which even kingdoms or governments are doing, will be put on trial on the day of judgment. It doesn't matter what you are doing, as long as you are doing something, God is seeing it. What is my message? My message is nothing is going to escape God's judgment. Now the other book we saw in Revelation 20 verse 12 says, and the book of life also was opened. So now there is a book of life which is going to be opened where the names of those who are saved are written. It's a book where only Christians are. And in this book, there is that potential for your name to be erased even if it is written. We remember last week we dealt with Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 31, where Moses says to God, God, I have sinned before you. Your people have sinned. But please blot your name or blot my name out of a book. And what did God say? He said, Moses, anyone who has sinned, anyone who has sinned, I will take their name personally based on what they have done. I am a fair God. If you are in fornication, you are in adultery, you are a homosexual and you are living in sin, do you think God is going to treat you like somebody who was living in righteousness? Do you think God is so unjust that he treats everyone in such a way that he doesn't distinguish between the righteous and the wicked? No ways. Malachi chapter 3. The book of Malachi chapter 3. The book of Malachi chapter 3. Malachi chapter 3. Books. We are dealing with books. Malachi chapter 3. I'll start reading from verse 16. Malachi chapter 3, verse 16. We are talking of books. We have seen there's a book on Judgment Day where names of the righteous are written. And then we've seen that there are other books where even atrocities committed by governments are written. Even if you are not saved and you do bad things, you are recorded in the other books. Malachi chapter 3 verse 16. Can you read for us, sister?
Then they that fear the Lord spoke often to one another, and the Lord heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared the Lord and that thought upon his name.
So do you see that in Malachi chapter 3 verse 16, I'll read. Then they that feared the Lord spoke often one to another, and the Lord listened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written. Do you see that what we do as Christians, these are people who feared whom? These were Christians who feared God. The Bible says the fear of God is to depart from what? From evil. So if you fear God, you depart from evil on your own. So now the Bible says in Malachi chapter 3 verse 16, they that feared God often spoke one to another, and the book of remembrance was what? Was opened. Was written. Why? God records everything we do. Ah! we are not saved by works. Yes, we are not saved by our works. Do you know that there are people who don't know what Ephesians 2 verse 8 where it says we are not saved by works? See, there is something which they don't read. Let me just, we will come back to Malachi chapter 3 verse 16. But I want to show you something about this. We are not saved by works. Ephesians 2:8. What is missing in that verse? Let's go. I'll put my sign on Malachi 3 because we are coming back. Ephesians chapter 2. We are not saved by works, yes. But what is the thing which you are missing from it? Ephesians chapter 2 verse 8. There are people who teach that we are saved by grace only. Where is a verse which says we are saved by grace only? There is no such a verse. Ephesians 2 verse 8. Listen to this. For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God. So salvation is a gift. You see, when I am given a gift, I can take that gift and play around with it, and I can even put it in the dustbin. You do what you want with your gift. So salvation is a what? Is a gift. And a gift is dealt with in accordance with the owner who has been given. Do you think if you give me a Bible and I want to throw it in the dustbin, you will stop me because you gave me as a gift? I do what I want with a gift. That is salvation. It is given to us by God. And one thing you have to understand about salvation is that God has given you free will. What do I mean by free will? Galatians 5, verse 22. For the fruit of the Spirit is what? Self what? Self-control. The fruit of the Spirit is not God-controlled. God does not control you. There is only one thing which controls people. Do you know what it is? Demons. That's why you see that in the Bible it's called a demon possession. When you have demon, you are possessed. You don't do what you want. You do what you are forced to do. But God does not possess you. He allows you to have free will. Ephesians 2, verse 8. Can you read for us, sister?
For by grace are you saved through faith, and not of yourselves. It is a gift of God.
Verse 9.
Not of works, lest any man should boast.
Continue.
For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works.
So do you see that we are saved to good what? If, let me put my head on the block. If you are not doing good works as a Christian, you are not saved. We are saved unto what? Brother Daniel, what does your version say? Just read for me, I will take it from there. I just want to take what it says. Read even if you are not here, but I will just repeat you. What does it, Ephesians 2 verse 10.
For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works.
So, we are created in Christ Jesus for good works. That's why Paul could say, faith without works is what? Is dead. As the body without the spirit is dead. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith with my works. That's Apostle Paul of the Bible. So this issue of saying, hey, it doesn't matter about our works, hey, Christ's righteousness is imputed on us, it's not in the Bible. 2 Corinthians chapter 7. I'm just, the more I read these scriptures, the more I divert. Because you know where we are. We are in Malachi chapter 3, and you know where we are. We are in Daniel chapter 7. I haven't forgotten that's where we are. But I'm just trying to show you the offshoots of what I'm talking about. 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1. Can you read for me, sister, verse 1? 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1.
Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit,
Okay.
perfecting holiness in the fear of God.
Let us cleanse ourselves from what? Does it say that Jesus cleanse you from filthiness? Brother Daniel, read your version.
Since we have these promises, beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from every defilement of body and spirit.
Let us cleanse ourselves from every defilement of body and spirit. So if you don't cleanse yourself, your body and your spirit can be what? Can be defiled. And do you think you are going to heaven? No ways. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 14. Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see God. Without holiness in your life, forget about seeing God. Hey, it is Christ's righteousness. You follow it yourself. 1 John chapter 3 verse 3. He who has this hope in himself purifies himself, even as Christ is pure. But there is a purity which you perform on your own. How did Jesus put it to the Pharisees? He said, unless your righteousness exceed that of the Pharisees, you will not in any wise enter the kingdom of God. Why? You are saying the Pharisees claim to be Christians and they are living in sin. And you also claim to be a Christian and you are living in sin. No ways. Malachi chapter 3, we go back to the books. Those who feared God, and a book of remembrance was written before him, and they that thought upon his name. So do you see that when you fear God, your daily activities are written? Malachi chapter 3 verse 16. The good you are doing is written. Do you know in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 the Bible says our works are going to be what? Tried. Whether you are saved, your works are going to be tried. And they are going to be burnt in the fire. And some of the Paul says, and when they are burnt, you are not going to receive a crown. But when your works stay, you will receive a crown. In heaven, we are not going to be equal because of what is written in the books. Do you think with all the gossip people do in church and the evil they do in church, although they are saved, they will be the same with those who don't do those things? No ways. No ways. So what have I shown you? I have shown you now that in the Bible, there are books where activities of governments are written. Whatever the ANC is doing today and their government, everything is as a scroll. It's written in a book. The corruption, the money they are eating, everything is being recorded. Whether the president is saved or not saved, he is going to account on what he did as a leader for South Africa. The same with Zimbabwe, the same with the UK. The laws they are passing about homosexuality is being written. Why? Because governments are going to be judged. So there are books which deal with even heathens being judged, with the governments being judged. There are books which deal with even Christians' good works being recorded. Is it clear? Is it very complicated or is simple and straightforward? So what am I trying to show you? I'm trying to show you that Daniel saw a vision where the kingdoms of the world one day will stand before God for judgment. Nebuchadnezzar, Iraq under Saddam Hussein, Iraq, Libya under Gaddafi, Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe, all the works which happened in Zimbabwe, the people like Lashiwe, who people say he was put in an acid and he disappeared. People like Itai or Itai Dzamara or Itai Dzamara, there is a book where they are being written. God knows exactly who killed them. And he knows exactly what happened. And the books are being written. Itai Dzamara was kidnapped in Harare on this day by so and so and so and so. They were sent by so and so. There is a book for that. All the people who were killed by assassins, the whole world, they are going to be accounted for. In short, what I'm just trying to say is, everything we are doing, whether you are a Christian, whether you are not a Christian, is written down. All the mischief, all the sins which everyone ever committed, whether you are saved or you are not saved, there is a book for it. The last verse, Deuteronomy chapter 17. This one, I want to put it as a foundation for what I will start teaching on next week. Next week, what I will teach on next week, it will be the most controversial thing I have ever taught in my life. I can guarantee you. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 17. Can you read for a sister?
Neither shall he multiply wives to him.
Okay, start from verse 16, sorry.
But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that ye should multiply horses. For as much as the Lord has said unto you, you shall henceforth return no more that way. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold.
Continue.
And it shall be, when he sits upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of his law in a book, out of that which is before the priests the Levites. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life.
Okay,
And
you end there, my dear. End it there. How many of you can be honest with me? Have heard a statement like this? Joshua 1, verse 8. And this book of the law shall not depart out of your what? Out of your mouth. You shall meditate on it day and night, so that you can be successful. And you were taught on how to start a business based on Joshua chapter 1 verse 8. Be honest with me. How many of you have heard that? Lift your hand. You have heard that. If you have heard a teacher or a preacher say, Joshua 1 verse 8 says, you are going to succeed if you confess this book of the law. How many of you have heard that? I want to show you from next week. This is where I will start my main sermon. That verse has nothing to do with prosperity. Nothing to do with you starting a business. Joshua 1 verse 8 has nothing to do with that. So we saw here where we read in Deuteronomy chapter 17 verse 16. Moses is being told that wherever you are going, when you settle as a nation, you must write a book of the law. There are 4 things which were to be written in that book of the law. And this book had nothing to do with Christians. It has something to do with the leader or the leaders of God's people. Joshua, as I was with Joshua, so I will be with you, Moses. If you don't what? If you don't get out of this way, you are going to succeed. Succeed in what? In ruling the people of God. So next week, God willing, I will start a very controversial subject about the books which will shock you, and everything will be based on scripture. Thank you.